Good morning, YouTube. Well, it's time to talk about what I learned in the garden this year. And I've been trying to get outside to actually film it so that I was in the garden, talking about the garden. But basically, every day where it's not raining or really windy, it's just too darn cold. So, instead, you get my turmeric plant in the background. Pretend this is my garden. But today I'm going to talk about my top 10 things that I learned in the garden this year. Number 1, pepper seeds really do need a heat mat. I have been using an old heating pad. That was my mother's. It's old. No automatic shut off or anything, so it would stay on, but it has, you know, low, medium, high, and I'll just put it on low. I've been using that for years. Well, this year, it finally died. No more waka. So I tried just, well, it'll take longer, but we'll just leave them, you know, in the kitchen, which is the warmer room. And some of them germinated just fine, and some of them just would not germinate. So I tried to put them on my dehydrator on top, because it gets a little warm up there. And they germinated even worse. I put my my fridge thermometer on top of there just to see what it was doing, and it was spiking up over 100 degrees. So I'm like, oh, okay, so it's too warm. I cooked them. I did buy an actual seed starting heat mat that I will be using next year. But pepper seeds really do like it warm, but not super hot. Number 2, keep to the schedule. I made out a big planting schedule that said, you know, February 1st, start onions and leeks, and, you know, March 1st, start peppers. That may not be right, but whatever it is, I have it all written out for the best times to start everything, and I did not keep to the schedule for many reasons, and a lot of things went out late because I was behind on this other things, like, well, that's later, so I gotta do that first, and that made the later stuff, I mean, even later. Keep to the schedule. When you have so much garden space, it was about 1,000 square feet this season that just ended, 2021. It's about 1,000 square feet of growing space. Just growing space. That's not including pathways and walkways and stuff. It's a lot to keep track of. It's a lot to try to do, and limited growing light space. So you've got to rotate things in and out, get your cool stuff out before you can get before you can up pot to get your tomatoes under there. So, you know, yeah. I ended up putting my tomatoes outside, still in the little cells. They came out just fine, but yeah, not following the schedule just threw the whole thing off because there's just so much. A third thing that I learned this year, don't put calendula in your tomato bed. Now, last year in 2020, I had a bed with tomatoes on both sides of the bed, and then I had calendula in the middle. Well, it became quite a pain in the butt to pick the calendula because I was saving the flowers for dehydrating. But it became quite a pain in the butt to pick it in between the tomatoes once the tomatoes got bigger. And like reaching through all my tomatoes to try and grab the flowers. So I'm like, okay, anything I'm gonna be picking on a daily or almost daily basis should not go in the middle of a tomato bed because the tomatoes get big. So this year, my bright idea was, I have the new 24-foot long cylinder block tomato bed, 2 rows of tomatoes. So I put the calendula in the block holes, and they apparently got a lot more light than they did in between the tomatoes last year. And they were huge. Huge. So big, I couldn't really get to the tomatoes to take care of the tomatoes. So, for me, I'm not going to put calendula in a tomato bed anymore. I am actually planning on putting them in block holes next year, but in front of the sweet potatoes, which I don't have to touch until wintertime. Well, not wintertime, but almost the first frost. So, number 4. I hate the Florida weave. I really hate the Florida weave. I had done it before, actually, a couple years ago, and it wasn't my favorite. It worked, but it wasn't the best application because I grow indeterminate tomatoes that get, 8 feet tall if you let them. Well, this year, if you didn't watch my tomato video like a month ago, I had some back issues over the summer, and I couldn't get out there and get down on the ground to take care of the tomatoes when they were growing, and they got out of hand, and they kind of went wild and so intertangled with each other that trying to fix them, I was breaking branches. I'm like, they're just staying. And I only Florida weaved like 2 rows around. Everything else just ended up being, all right, well, we'll just put string on either side to kind of keep them up. And that's all I could do because they were just that unruly. Florida weave, you have to keep up with it. If you've got things in your life that sometimes, things slip by you and you don't get to it for, a week or 2, the Florida weave is not for you. Yeah. So, I hate the Florida weave. I am not going to do it again. My plan next year is actually to put up fencing, make a double wall of fencing so that there's space in between the 2 rows of tomatoes. And then if I get behind, you're just clipping them to a fence. It's not that bad. It's fine. I actually had a volunteer that came up after I pulled my potatoes, and I had a wall behind them that I had peas up before, but there was a volunteer that was coming up, so I'm like, hey, let's see how it goes on the wall. And it was already kind of unruly because it had been growing on the ground and I didn't see it. And it was, easy to put up on the wall. So I think this will be a lot better option. But I'm not going to do the Florida weave again. If the wall thing doesn't work, then we're back to single staking. Number 5. Keep up with weeds. Yeah, weeds was bad. But again, with that couple week period where I didn't go outside because my back was bad, the weeds got away from me. So they were so bad, it's a lot hard. It takes a lot more time to pull weeds when they're bigger and choking your plants out than it is when they're little and you're like, oh. So it took a long time to try and catch everything up with the weeds, and I never actually got all the weeds out. So keep up with your weeds. It's easier when they're little, if you can identify them, and that is. Number 6. Corn needs a wall. At least here. Because we do get some pretty windy storms in the summer. And this year I had 2 in a row. Well, we had tornado. Where's a tornado? Like actually touched down a few miles away. it was tiny, like it wasn't really destroying anything, but the winds associated with that are not good for corn. All of my corn got knocked over. Like 300 stalks of it. Well, I planted 300. I'm sure it wasn't 100% germination, but it was pretty close. I'd say it was at least 90% germination rate. There was a lot of corn out there. They all got knocked over. They were laying flat, the whole section. They didn't get broken though. They just got bent. Then like a week later, we had another storm. It kind of knocked them over again, and they didn't all recover. And it affected, like, they tasseled during that time too. So it messed all that up. I ate one ear of corn. Yeah. So I need like some support. Put a couple stakes in and some nylon string along the back. Like our wind like always comes from south to north direction because the way we're in this valley. Just in case, that way they, you know, they'll lean on that and then they'll be fine. The seventh thing that I learned this year is onions really do need to cure properly, which I apparently have not done properly. I've got the biggest crop of onions I've ever gotten this year. It was great, but apparently I didn't cure them right because now they're like sprouting. But yeah, onions really do need to cure properly unless you're going to use them right away. I'd never gotten as much before, so I always ended up using them within like a couple weeks. I actually still have onions. I still have a good bit of onions. And they're sprouting. Number 8. Sweet potatoes need a raised bed. For me, I put them in the ground this year. Just, it's where I used to grow my corn. So there had been compost put on top, but it hadn't affected the soil that far down yet. Like it was still just, you know, a few inches at the top. Sweet potatoes are sensitive, and I broke probably almost half of them trying to get them out of the ground because they were so big. I mean, they loved the soil, but trying to get them out without breaking them or scratching into them, yeah, they need a raised bed with softer soil. Number 9, also with sweet potatoes. I need to not wait until the first frost to pull the sweet potatoes because it's cold and it makes it harder to work in. Yeah, I need to do it like during those couple of weeks when it's still warm, but you know that cold is coming and the nights are cool, but the days are warm. That's when I need to start digging them out. And then I don't have to do it all, you know, at one time. You know, I can take my time a little bit, and it's tedious, so it's easier to do when it's warmer. The 10th thing that I learned from the garden this year is fall gardening is pointless here except for radishes. It really is. I've tried several times. The light is just terrible. With the sun being lower, it's behind the mountain and the trees so much more that things just don't grow fast enough without like a greenhouse. And we had a good fall this year too. Like usually there's like hot, well, for here hot, and then too hot for cool weather vegetables. And then like 2 weeks of nice weather, but rainy usually. And then we're into snow and ice and freezes, and yeah. It's usually not a very long, like, actual fall weather. We get a good long spring, not a long fall generally. This year we actually had a nice long fall. We didn't get our first freeze until November. We were into November. So even when I do start stuff inside, it usually dies of neglect, like drying out, because I just don't think of that. I'm in a different mode. I also have so many things going on, especially like in, you know, early fall. We've got school going on. I've got homeschooling, preserving the stuff that's coming in. Like, there's so much to do. Looking at a seedling is not high on my list, and then they die. So, not real good with starting things inside in the summer. So I direct seeded stuff, but then we just don't have the light. We don't have the light. So for me, as long as we're living on this property with its limitations, fall gardening is just not worth it. It's not worth wasting the seed for, except for radishes. So anyway, those are the top 10 things that I learned from my garden this year. Comment below, let me know what you learned from yours. Thanks for coming along with me today. I hope you enjoyed this video. May God bless you all. Shalom.